end links, sway bar links, stabilizing links, however they want to call them. Got a 2006 Toyota Tundra, and these are bad. Now typically in the Rust Belt, a lot of the times these just get eaten alive by corrosion and they snap and they break. In the South, that's typically not the issue. More than likely, usually the bushings go bad on them. When they go bad, you start hearing a kind of a clink sound from it hitting the stabilizing bar. You get a little more body roll on it, and handling might be affected. It's usually negligible. I mostly go for the noise, in my opinion, on it. So I got these are from that Detroit Axle or something like that. So I bought these about 2 years ago, and the ones they sent me were the wrong ones, and I put it on and they wound up breaking. Apparently they were a lot thinner, very cheap quality. Reached out to the company. They gave me my money back, which was pretty awesome. But what was extra cool about it was that 2 days later they sent me another set, and that was awesome. And I never got to put them back in. I actually wound up putting the original ones in, but the bushings right now are just all worn out, so it's time to change them. So on this job, you don't have to put it on jack stands and take off the tire. It is a little easier, better lighting, better access, but on trucks and even some cars, you could get away with it just doing ramps, using the ramps, drive right up on them, and you'll have fair access to it. I'm one of those that if I don't have to take off a tire and put it on jack stands, I won't. And I've done it this way, and it works pretty fine. All right, so right under the truck, you can see the bushing right over here. Camera doesn't capture it, but it's pretty squished. It's kind of loose, and yeah, it's definitely time to be done. Now these are not making any noises. Typically the socket right over here will actually make a lot of noise, and that's one sign that they're bad. But in this case, it's just the bushings. The dealership wanted like $80 just for the bushings. Those were $20. This is all highway truck. That's all it sees. It doesn't do off-roading or anything like that. So even though those may appear to be a little cheaper, it will work. On this other side over here, you can actually see it's a little worse, and when I take them off, you'll see the worse for wear on it. So let's get started. So I guess we'll start over here. Here's 17. Let's loosen it. Now, the only reason why this is coming loose is because I've actually taken this off before. But typically, if it doesn't, there's a little Allen head over here. Those things are freaking useless. A lot of times, just take a vice grip, bite it in the back over here, kind of where the shaft is, and that's the only way they're going to come off. All right, so for this top bolt right over here, this is going to be a 14. Like I said, these are loose because I've taken this out before. If not, you have to get some vice grips, or typically a lot of times you can just take a whiz wheel, cut these off, and that'll be fine. But this is actually coming out pretty easy. So now that it's loose on the top, I'm gonna smack this out. Easy. So it's the old one. It's kind of rotted over here. The bushings, they're a little squished, and they actually get worse when there's more load on them. And this has a lot of play. It's not making noise. Well, actually, oh yeah, that is bad. Okay, so even better. So now the new one, washer, bushing, and then it goes into this lower stabilizing, I guess, hole right over here. I can't seem to get it in because the bar is a little too low. So typically when that happens, all you need to do is disconnect both sides, and that'll allow the bar to swivel up and down a lot easier, so I can slide this in. So let me go ahead and loosen the other side, and then we'll come back to this. So now trying to loosen this one is spinning. So when that happens, that's typically the easier way to do it, is to use a vice grip to hold it. Needle nose is ideal. Get it nice and tight. Like that. And then we can use our gun to take it out the other way. simple. So by loosening both end links, you can see the stabilizing bar just kind of flaps back and forth. And when they break, they actually make this noise. You can actually, I don't know if you can hear it, it's just smacking around. I typically hear that noise when they snap at the metal shaft over here. I hear more of a clinging noise when the bearings are, when the bushings are worn out. But now we can slide those new ones in. So now that we can get that up, put it in right there. And slide it right there. Now something that I like to do on these bushings is just put a little bit of a silicone paste on there. Keeps it from squeaking. It's just something I've grown accustomed to doing. Put the top one in. So on the bottom it's going to be stabilizing bar, bushing, and that washer or cup. And then on the top it's going to be bushing, which if you notice it has this little indent that goes down into it to kind of seat it in. Washer. Now, don't tighten these until you put the other side in. Once you put the other side in, we'll go over tightening them. So now, because these are aftermarket, the sizes have changed. This is now an 18 as it was a 17 from the factory, and this is a 17 as it was a 14 from the factory. So they're both in, they're loose. We got the weight on the vehicle, which is the most important thing. And the first thing I go ahead and do is I tighten this bottom one, like so. And I guess because it's aftermarket, I have to do the old vice grip trick. I guess the one saving grace of these parts is that they anticipate that this thing is going to spin. If you notice, they don't have that what you call it, that Torx or hex, whatever they call it, right on here. So they give you plenty of room to grab onto it with a wrench. I'm sure it's maybe like a 14 or 16. I just use a needle nose vice grip and that should work. I mean, you can't expect much for free. With these bushings and tightening them, the way I do it, I make sure there's a load on the vehicle, and I just tighten them until they just slightly ever start to squish. So now these things require grease compared to the other ones, so let's give them a little grease. If we can. It's kind of weird. My grease gun doesn't fit on this, so I don't know. I have to get another one, or maybe it's my grease gun. Maybe that's cheap, crappy fitting. Kind of frustrating. I mean, minus the bushings just being kind of cracked, and then when you put a load on them, they just squish to nothing, and this kind of washer is kind of hitting the stabilizing bar. They weren't in terrible shape. It's kind of stuck on there. But as you can see, rust, corrosion starting to happen in here, eating the shaft away, so it's a little thin. This one still feels pretty good. This was the bad one. Boot broken, stuck, play. This is the one that was making the noise, so, and that was on the passenger side. Hopefully those other ones last longer, and I'm definitely going to probably change them again in the future to get some quality ones. I mean, because if you look at these things are pretty beefy and stocky compared to those Mickey Mouse ones, so it's unfortunate. Alright, if I'm honest with you, these things kind of suck. I mean, you get what you pay for. In this case, I didn't pay anything for it, but the bushings are not as thick as these. And then just, I don't know, I'm just not happy with the quality of them. I mean, it's better than what it was. Get rid of a couple of noises, but as far as how long they last, only time will tell. So that's it for this. Typically this job is pretty easy if you use good quality parts, but if you use cheap aftermarket stuff, I mean, you get what you paid for. But at least this will maybe get me a couple of months until I could order the original ones. They're really expensive. I think it's like almost $200 for the set. So maybe I could find something cheaper or a better aftermarket brand. So thanks for watching. We'll see what we fix next.